So I gave blood once. I passed out and I peed myself. Then I lied about it and I said it was sweat. So let's just get this out of the way right now. If I pass out, yes, I peed myself. I could actually roll with this analogy a little longer, so I will. Standing up here in front of people isn't that far from giving blood. My insides are coming out and we can all sit around and look at it. Hold it up to the light and really examine all the colors, even poke at it a little. And the fact that I passed out, peed, and then wanted to lie about my whole situation, that part is really important. So was the part where I got babied by Red Cross and taken into a back room and given juice boxes and cookies. That part is even more important, and I'll get there. So what I need from everyone right now is just to remember blood, pee, and cookies. Blood, pee, cookies. All right. Doesn't feel balanced. Okay, so taking risks. That's what I'm here to talk about. I was assigned the topic long before I had words to go with it. In fact, I had a huge hell no. Why would you even ask me to speak before I had a yes, I'm sweating 6 months in advance about it, but I guess I'll do it. In fact, the idea was so laughable and terrifying to me that I wrote myself off. I ripped away all of my credit. After a glass of wine and a little encouragement from my best friend, I decided I was worth this risk. I'm worth more yeses, and I am worth the growing experience of facing this fear. Let me take you to the first 20 minutes of writing this speech. It started with me in bed, mostly texting, just sitting there texting, sipping on some tea, a notebook on my lap, and a pen I decided was too frickin' large for my hand and didn't leave the appropriate texture on the page. Nonetheless, I wrote taking risks at the top of the paper and underlined it, and then I texted some more, underlined it again. Then I started to write things like base jumping, skydiving, giving a speech, all pretty obvious. Then my smart ass started to come out a little bit. I wrote drinking Diet Coke, dating girls, lying to your mom. Then I started to really think about it, and I wrote things like forgiving, getting out of bed, being honest, making a commitment, being there. I wrote being a parent, standing up for yourself. Some things I am familiar with and other things I'm not. I really questioned my qualifications for speaking on taking risks. What does that even mean? Moving, being gay, putting everything you have into a relationship? Does it mean fighting? Does it mean giving up? I take risks every single day, just some are more glorified than others. You went whitewater rafting? Wow, what an amazingly cool thrill seeker. You asked for a raise? Damn, you got balls. You're not happy and you actually said that? Oh, all right. You quit your job? Meh. You want out of that relationship? Why? You look so perfect on Instagram. You're a liar? Well, at least you said it. The real risks aren't jumping out of a plane. They are the quiet moments we have with ourselves where we really articulate who we are about, what we are, the things we really want and the things we really need. Sometimes it means wrecking someone else in the process, and sometimes it means wrecking ourselves and starting over. It really comes down to getting honest with ourselves. This is where I want to talk about blood. The blood portion of this, that's where I'm talking about blood. This past year, I've been talking a lot with Nicole Eaton about the feelings I've had inside and the difficulty I've had putting words to it all. I keep saying things like, it feels like my skin is zipping, it feels like I'm about to burst out everywhere. I'm vibrating internally like my blood is trying to crawl right outside of my skin and run around in the street screaming and slapping people. I think we all get this restlessness. Some people may articulate it as their blood running around outside of their body, acting like a psychopath. Others could whisper, I feel as though I should be doing something differently. I'm not happy. This doesn't feel right. I'm bored. I'm making bad decisions. I'm trapped. It's dark over here. Why isn't anything going the way I want it to? It's our insides, our blood, what we are made up of. And in my opinion, in my very long existence as a 28-year-old, we don't give ourselves enough honest to goodness face time. We don't look internally enough when we feel our blood boiling or when we feel our hearts are stagnant. Whatever that internal feeling is, we immediately attach it to something external. I'm not happy because I sit at a desk 8 hours a day. I'm not happy because I don't have any good friends that live near me. I'm sad because I'm alone. I'm restless because I used to be somebody, but now I'm no one. Does that sound familiar? I'm not happy because my jeans don't fit. I'm not happy because insert excuse, insert lie. We lie. We lie all day long, up and down and all around, until we don't even know who we are anymore. We've just constructed a vault of lies to protect us from stripping everything away and facing just us, just ourselves, one-on-one. Let me tell you a little story about being a liar. I'm gay. I love it now. I can say it now. 10 years ago, I was also gay, but I denied it with every inch of my being. I turned it into this horribly ugly piece of me, and my body became my enemy. And you don't have to be gay to relate to this. Just think of that time in your life where you were so buried inside of yourself with pain you couldn't function. You felt like no one would get it. You felt helpless. No one understands that pain because it was your own, and it is your own. It's your blood, your insides. Own it and accept it. Okay, so back to me being a liar. It was freshman year of college. That's where it all starts, right? I met this girl. I'll save you the details, but yeah, definitely gay. And yet, I wouldn't say it, wouldn't tell anyone. For 5 years, I told no one. We were really best friends, really great roommates. I lied and lied and lied. I dated boys and talked about them enough to distract people from the fact that I was head over heels in love with my best friend. She couldn't accept it either, so we sat in that dark room of confusion by ourselves for years until she decided she wanted out, wanted to marry a man, wanted me to be the maid of honor. Sure, okay, no problem, I'm fine. I can do this, I can deal with it. Lies, lies, lies. When you lie to yourself, you get in the way of processing information. You think you're protecting yourself from the world, but instead you're only burying yourself further and further. You're building walls you will eventually have to climb unless you're planning to stay there and suffocate. Okay, so now pee. And this is the pee part. First blood, now pee. Okay. This is where I associate our reactions to the truth. So it's our honesty. We've sat down, we've looked at our blood, and now we're scared because we need to make a change. That's what a risk is, it's a change. It's a leap, or a twist, or a turn in a different direction than the path we had originally boxed ourselves into. And now we want to pee our pants. We want to run to the mountains, we want to pull a pita and paint ourselves into some rocks and wait for Katniss to come and save us. Once we are honest, once we have identified who we are and we accept the changes we need to make, watch out. We get a little weird, right? At one point in my life, I was such a nervous mess that lacked confidence and direction and the ability to function without constantly keeping myself busy. Knitting became a thing for a while. I was a hobby addict, and I was insistent on knitting even while I was driving because the lack of activity while moving 75 miles an hour from location A to B was actually so terrifying I needed to fill it up with scarves. We get weird in the face of reality and react like maniacs to our risks, to our fears. Usually we say no. Hell no, I'm not giving a speech. Hell no, I'm not jumping out of an airplane. I went skydiving last summer, by the way. Do you know what skydiving is? You actually fall out of a plane for 2 miles, reaching 120 miles an hour. I have 365 GoPro still frames to document how conflicting every horrifying split second of that experience was. I was all flappy skin and sweat. Our reactions to fear come in all shapes and sizes. They come in flattering and extremely, really extremely unflattering images. Jumping out of an airplane is glorified. Ending a marriage or a relationship, moving away from your family, being selfish and taking time for yourself, being brutally honest with someone you truly deeply care about. Those are really big risks that don't come with a thumbs up or a high five. But those risks are the ones that matter. They're the honest risks. In the P stage, or the P process of taking a risk, we are still trying to find our footing, and it can become damn embarrassing. We distract ourselves in all sorts of ways. Knitting could be one, maybe running 10 to 15 miles a day. Maybe we sit and stare at Facebook for hours comparing our lives to others. Are our lives too boring? Maybe we stop being present and focus more intently on our Instagram filter than the moment in front of us. Maybe we freeze up and do nothing. Maybe we make ourselves busier and busier so we don't have to focus on the underlying voices we have inside trying to bust out, the really deeply unsettling parts. Or maybe we start to face it a little at a time, and then we get scared back into our corner. It's messy. There's nothing clean and orderly about taking a risk, about being honest. I'm going to take a sip of water right now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's another really important thing that I would like to mention about P. This is really critical, actually. This is the part where we cut ourselves some slack. Sometimes we are in messes we didn't create for ourselves, or collateral damage to other people's messes. Usually this happens to us when we're really, really young. Sometimes it happens to us when we're much older. All sorts of really dark, sharp, piercingly painful sorts of things. It could be one event. It could be several events, years and years, over and over, that make no sense whatsoever. And we didn't deserve it. But it will continue to affect us every day of our lives. It impacts how we perceive the world, how we judge others, and then how we value ourselves, how we react to certain stimuli. To this very day, I can't stand the McDonald's fruit and yogurt parfait. That disgustingly chunky, overly sweetened cylinder of sludge is connected to something so painful for me. It's a dark memory. The smell of it makes me nauseous. We all have things like that, certain songs that are like Russian roulette on the radio, trigger words that make us lose our freaking minds. For some reason, growing up, my ex-stepfather lied to me for years, saying that the man I went to visit wasn't actually my father. It started out as a small lie to a 3-year-old, and then I think with the intention of adoption. It continued to grow into a more complex configuration of words and scenarios until I was 10. I can't even find a way to explain how incredibly confusing it was to have visitation with a man that I was told was not my father, but looked exactly like me. We have the same exact hands, and to this day, when I look at my hands, I don't even know how I ever could have believed that lie. I thought I was the dumbest name in my family, but I wasn't allowed to use that name in my own home. And my ex-stepfather was in the Army, so we moved all the time. I was in 15 different schools before I was in 5th grade. I had to have 15 conversations with teachers about how I had to go home at night and write a different last name on my homework assignment so that I could be part of the team. I wasn't 10 yet. I'm not sharing this as some sort of pity party either. I'm sharing this because I understand what it's like to be subject to things that I had no control over. Sometimes things really do just happen to us, and it's messy, and it's a result of someone else's mess. They didn't fix their mess, and now we've become tied into it. So much history is inside of each and every one of us. The important part for me is to identify where we have control and where we don't, where someone else's mess ends and where ours begins. We can be whacked out adolescents that have zero ability to cope or rationalize, and we can have anger and treat others like crap right up into adulthood because we can't make sense out of the world we are in. We can even point the finger internally and think there is something so fundamentally wrong with us that we need to get praise, seek acceptance, or attention in the oddest of ways. We all do it in one way or another. We try to claim that power back into our lives. But we don't necessarily do it in a thoughtful, loving, or productive way. We don't separate someone else's pee from our own pee. It's funny. It wasn't funny, so I read it right now. I didn't beg to be manipulated. I didn't ask to have identity issues, but I'm not going to continue to have them. I'm an adult, and I'm an awesome adult. I can see the places where someone else's mess really hurt me, crushed me, how it affected my confidence and my ability to trust in myself. Eventually, we have to find that area where we recognize that pain so that we can deal with it and be our own people, so that we can have strong legs to stand on, so that we can grow and take those risks without doubt in our own value as a person. When I go to McDonald's, I don't order the fruit and yogurt parfait. If we are open, we find ways to make it work. Okay, cookies. We had blood, pee, cookies. After giving blood when I passed out, I said I had sweated my pants, and I continued to say, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Sometimes we take that leap or that risk or that jump and then things get really bad. We've now crossed over that line of safety. We have blown through all the messiness and we did it. We probably didn't feel ready for it. We didn't have it planned all the way out, but we forced ourselves into some sort of growth because of it. You do not grow as a person unless you push yourself, an unmeasurable fact. You can be really scared of all the messes that you've created or others have created that you can be paralyzed. We're rarely ready for the things that grow us. If we were ready and it were easy, it wouldn't be called taking risks. It would be called pouring a cup of coffee and watching my cat sit in a box. But without that push, you don't get the cookies, another unmeasurable fact I'm not making up. There's nothing better than being babied, right? When the nurses took me all sweat and pee and lies and said, come have a cookie, I wanted to curl in the fetal position on the table and stay there forever. We have to have faith that on the other side of that jump, we will find more clarity. And we have to have faith in ourselves to be strong through it. And we have to be realistic enough to know that it might take years. I was living in Western Massachusetts almost 2 years ago, really struggling to find a job. I have a master's in school counseling. I decided maybe moving closer to the city into Boston would be a better way to find a more stable career position. So after applying to over 100 positions and receiving no phone calls back, I decided I couldn't deal with it anymore, and I applied to everything I thought wouldn't kill me. A senior financial advisor gave me a phone call almost immediately after I applied to this position at his small financial firm. I know kids, I know school, I know counseling stuff. I knew nothing about IRAs, Roth IRAs, investing in real estate investment trusts, how to set up a 401k, the benefits of Roth conversions, and managed properties. I know a little bit if you want to know after. And I was scared. Just taking the elevator up to the office suite, it was an office suite, and I was used to hallways with lockers and kids and screaming and horseplay, not briefcases and suits. It was terrifying to interview and more terrifying to accept the position. And honestly, it was horrible at the start. I wanted to quit my first week. It was so much information, and even with a master's degree, I felt so uneducated. He was also a tough personality. Now over a year and a half later, I could do this job in my sleep, and I've met amazing people. And I have some even bigger doors to start knocking on if I want to. Or I can quit and become an unprofessional, public, sweaty reading mess. I can do what I want. We all can. It was really terrifying draining my bank account to rent a place right outside of Boston and start a job I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do. I could have been fired or realized I made a huge mistake. And now I'm in a new city with a few $100s and about 150 unanswered applications. But if I hadn't taken that job, I would not be right here, right now, taking this risk. It gave me a piece of confidence in my abilities that I was missing. This is such a tiny example that is contingent on 400 other examples about how I got to where I am. And it isn't over. I'm under no misconception that this whole blood pea cookies thing is linear. We can have one piece of our lives aligning perfectly while another piece of our life looks like a puzzle box was flung out of a 7-story window in the middle of rush hour traffic. Can you remember the last conversation you had with your best friend or your sibling, or really anyone that you love? Anyone that you want to build up so high they can reach anything their heart's ever thought of. What was that like? For me, it probably went something like, demand more, right? You deserve more. You've been accepting mediocre, and that's just crap because you're not mediocre. You're this incredibly brilliant, fun, loving, beautiful life source, and your soul is craving more, so take it. Really, it probably didn't sound that great when I said it, but my heart meant it. My actions show it in my presence, my arm around them, and my incessant texting. My faith in those people and the awe with which I look at them are genuine and full. But for some reason, there's a disconnect. We don't do that for ourselves when we need it most. In the messy parts of things, we let doubt and negativity creep in. If we just pause for long enough to treat ourselves with the kind of faith and kindness we show the people we care about, we would unleash the energy and focus that will help carry us through the messy time. It's so easy to say this, and it isn't easy to do. It's scary. But we know what feels right. We know what is honest. And once we define that, the rest becomes externally complicated, but internally purposeful. I'm still not certain exactly why I'm standing here, why I said yes. It just felt right, and I'm trusting in that. I feared it would appear self-involved, I would sound repetitive or petty, or I wouldn't be able to justify in words a topic I wasn't sure I was qualified to discuss in the first place. I wasn't sure I would connect with anyone sitting out in the audience. Maybe I'd botched the whole damn thing. I definitely sweat through my shirt though, so I did that. But there has been such a deep pleasure in the process of writing this out that I don't care. I was never going to be ready for this day. Speaking in front of people sounds about as appealing to me as a McDonald's fruit and yogurt parfait or giving blood. But I'm trusting that I've connected with one or two of you out there and also one of the members of my tiny fan club. I hope my mom buys me a cookie. Aww. Thank you so incredibly much for listening.